Ryan, while we have you.
Countdown's on.
Yeah, while we have you, I got to ask some of these questions on Signalgate. That's what a lot of people inside the Beltway are calling it. And this is day 4 of this story. But I want to get the congressional angle with you about how not only Democrats, we know how Democrats are responding. Many of them have called on Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz to resign their positions or for President Trump to fire them. And I want to get you to comment on what Republicans specifically are saying. And I want to put this up here from your colleague on the Hill, Andrew Desiderio. This is a letter that Senator Roger Wicker from Mississippi, Republican, Senator Jack Reed, Democrat from Rhode Island, sent. They're asking the Department of Defense Inspector General to investigate the Signal chat. Andrew notes it's the first and likely only bipartisan congressional inquiry on the matter. That's been one of my questions throughout this whole story, Ryan. Who is going to be tasked with investigating this? And Wicker and Reed, that's the chair and the ranking member of Senate Armed Services, they want to get to the bottom of this. They want answers here. Is this the only congressional request from the Hill that we're seeing so far?
Well, that involves Republicans, yes. This is the only congressional action that we're seeing taken, where you have Roger Wicker calling for an investigation and putting together an investigation through his committee. And they're going to be asking the Inspector General to get as much information to them as possible and also provide a classified briefing to members of the committee down the road. So the House, we don't know if there's going to be any action taken in that regard. It doesn't look like that's something Speaker Johnson is really looking to. You know, a lot of Trump loyalists on the Hill are kind of saying it's time to move on. We can acknowledge this was a mistake, but we don't think anybody should step aside. And Eric Schmidt, the Republican senator from Missouri, said this was a way for Democrats to distract from their lack of popularity and the fact that they lost in November. And he used some more coarse words than what I just used right there. But Republicans are really just trying to push back on this and say it's time to move on, and that the media is over covering this and overblowing a lot of this of what happened in this alleged group chat. But you know, the reality is Democrats are still hitting this point, and they're going to try to keep this in the spotlight as much as possible. Because keep in mind, Andrew, the news cycle was not friendly to Democrats going into this. You still had a lot of disagreements about the future of Chuck Schumer. Pete Aguilar, the number 3 House Democrat, dodged questions earlier this week from me about whether or not he has confidence or not in Chuck Schumer. And then you had Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat congresswoman from Texas, refer to Greg Abbott as Governor Hot Wheels, the Texas governor who's in a wheelchair. But the Signalgate is kind of what's dominating the headlines and dominating the talk of Capitol Hill. So I think there might be a sense of frustration among Republicans that they had a lot of momentum. This is now giving Democrats something to unite around.
You know, I have to ask, though, but Senate Republicans specifically, are any of them of the persuasion that, you know, this was a colossal mess up, that they want to get answers, that they want to see the Trump administration at least acknowledge that this was a mess up here? And is there any calls from anyone there on the Hill for Hegseth and Waltz to come before their relevant committees? Yes, we saw earlier this week Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, John Ratcliffe all have to take questions on this story. You know, coincidentally, those hearings were scheduled before the story even broke here. But is that request going to come, do you think, anytime soon, to hear from Hegseth, to hear from Waltz?
I haven't heard anyone from them specifically, but there is over a dozen Democrats who sent a letter asking for Trump administration officials to appear before committees like the Intelligence Committee, Foreign Affairs, Armed Services. Now, when it comes to Republican criticism of this situation, Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska, a Trump critic, very aggressively put out a statement criticizing what happened here and say that we pretty much were lucky that no service members were put at risk because of the information that was on this group chat. You know, Don Bacon, the Republican from Nebraska, who has been critical of Trump at times, said it was baloney to say that war plans were not shared in the group chat. And he said that the Trump administration should just own up to it so that they can move on. So, yes, there is some Republican criticism here, but for the most part, I would say the majority of Republicans are saying, let's move on, acknowledge it was a mistake, and this is being overblown.
All right, Ryan Schmelz with Fox News Radio. Ryan, we're going to leave it at that. Always appreciate it. Talk soon.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, in the meantime here, while we wait to get to the top of the hour, let's just get you up to speed. Day 4 of the Signalgate story. I want to go out to my friend and colleague, Fox's Connor Hansen, with this update. Let's listen.
Both the top Democrat and the top Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee have now requested an official investigation into the use of the Signal app to discuss military plans. They want to know if classified information was sent over the commercial network and how a journalist was added to a group chat where top Trump administration officials discussed specific details of an upcoming strike in Yemen. President Trump has said an inspector general investigation would not bother him, but the White House would rather move on.
The president and our entire team have been incredibly transparent. We have taken every question under the sun about this story, and the National Security Advisor has taken responsibility for this mistake.
Democrats have called for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to resign, and one says he should even face charges. They're focusing on one message in particular in which Hegseth sent specific timing and details of the attack.
There was a crime here, and likely an intentional crime.
The Trump administration continues to insist no classified information was shared, despite growing calls from Democrats. A criminal investigation seems like a long shot.
It's not going to happen. It was an accidental thing. No classified information was leaked.
The White House said Wednesday that Elon Musk will be leading an investigation on their end into how Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg's contact was added to the chat. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
Connor, thanks so much. I want to put this up from Hugo Lowell, a reporter at The Guardian. He tweeted this, that Judge Boasberg is ordering defendants in the Signal lawsuit. Remember, this lawsuit was brought by watchdog groups there in D.C. The defendants include Hegseth, Ratcliffe, Gabbard, and Rubio, and Besson. He is ordering them to preserve all Signal communications between March the 11th and March the 15th. So this is moving now to federal court in order to preserve some of these records as some of these groups are suing over transparency. In the meantime here, remember,